Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown. I am your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
No, you don't. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Piwowarski. I am coming to you live from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most from the co-host with the most. Here on the Rundown, where we have 2A news and conservative views. Welcome to the program.
Folks, apologize for you guys. Ran just a wee bit late getting on the air today, but it's all good because it's Friday, and we all kind of try to chill back and chill out and lay back on Fridays anyway.
Get all chillaxing and relaxing, just
Chillaxing,
looking at it.
chillaxing in the hood, right?
That's it.
Any
How's
special plans?
your day gone for you there, sir?
It is going phenomenal. I started the day at a Good Friday, as everyone knows. Today is Good Friday.
Okay.
Went to a prayer breakfast this morning. Had a good time. Although I'm never one for like the chicken dinner circuit or the the rubber chicken circuit. Yeah, you never get what you pay for. You always think about those things. And anyway, so started the day off with that. Got a chance to see some folks that I had not seen in a good long while. This was the first time this organization had done this prayer breakfast since pre-COVID. So it was kind of nice to see everyone again and say some hellos and whatnot. So started the day off with that and celebrating my son's birthday today. So my grown son. So he's going to be coming by here in a little bit, and we will be enjoying some birthday cake and a few adult beverages.
Wait, he's coming on the program? Coming back?
He's not coming on the program.
Oh,
He'll be listening, but he will not be coming on the program. No.
All right. That we might get a walk by or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Hey, anything could happen.
Very good. Good stuff.
How about
good
yourself?
Stuff. I spent the morning at a police charity fundraiser event for wounded or hurt public servants. We did that early from about sunup until about 2 p.m. Saw some really good people. Saw some people I hadn't seen in a long time. I met some new people and. I basically just did that this morning and doing a little bit of catching up on everything else, having a free afternoon for a change. So it was a great day, great organization, great time. And it was a great way to spend a Good Friday.
Excellent. That is always good to hear. Easter is to me one of the most underappreciated holidays, largely because, we always celebrate Christmas, which is, when the gift was born. And, honestly, this time of year, Easter, this is about what that gift really was. And so I really, this is a very solemn, a very special time of year for me. And with that, by the way, folks, however you are watching us, please make it a point at this point to like, share, and by the way, share. However you're watching us, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching us on Facebook, if you're watching us on OpsLens, if you're watching us on Spotify or listening to us any sort of way, wherever you get your podcasts, if you just want to hear the audio version of this program, it's real simple. Wherever you go get your podcasts, you can find us there. All you got to do is check it out. So please make sure you do that. Spread us around, share us around, whatever Mike likes to say in regards to that. But please go ahead and do that and encourage your friends to do the same. All right, why don't we go ahead and get into our first story. All right, this is an interesting one. I don't watch The View. I don't spend a lot of time watching The View, and I don't generally encourage most people to watch The View. It's pretty much that show that takes place early in the morning, or not early, it takes place in the morning. It's where basically a group of liberals, and sometimes they employ one conservative, but basically a group of liberals get together and they, trash they take all sorts of opportunities to trash conservatism, right? In this case in particular, they go out of their way to try and trash. They're going out of their way to try and trash the Second Amendment. Joy Behar, you guys have heard of that name before. She pretty much is the worst of the worst. She's a comedian, actress that has never really been particularly funny. But she tries to talk about political news or political views. And so this first video that I want to share with you just has to do. So they did an episode the other day or yesterday. They were talking about the shooting that took place there in New York. And needless to say, the first thing that they went after was, in fact, the Second Amendment. In other words, their whole perspective in this particular thing was, well, the only reason that we have these sorts of shootings going on in the United States is because, well, we have a Second Amendment. Here, check out the video.
So we are 103 days into 2022, and there have already been more than 130 mass shootings in America this year alone. Did you know that? That sounded so high to me.
Yeah.
Yesterday, a gunman shot 10 commuters in the worst mass shooting in New York subway history. Luckily, everyone is alive, and the hunt is on for suspect Frank James. But the usual allegations are being thrown around about the left being too soft on crime, while at the same time, red states like Georgia are making it even easier to get guns. This is a tragic and uniquely American problem, it seems to me. I don't understand why we can't solve this problem. I mean, Julia said to me as we were coming out, they don't have this problem in countries where there aren't guns all over the place, but those countries do not have a Second Amendment. And I think that's the difference.
That's the problem. But like you look at the UK, there's almost no gun violence. You look at New Zealand, you look at Australia. When you take away guns, you take away gun violence.
Yes.
Right.
Well, I agree.
Okay, so Mike, so their perspective is, well, you take away guns, you take away gun violence. That gun violence exists because there's a Second Amendment. Now, you notice that they say, first of all, that's a lie. You do not take away, when you take away guns, you do not eliminate gun violence. That is issue number one. But issue number two, you notice they don't say violence. Did you catch that in their little soliloquy right there?
Yeah, I did. It starts off, you got to listen to either Drunk or High Joy Behar again. Can we stop? Can we get her someplace where we don't have to watch her be intoxicated or under the influence? That's ridiculous in itself. Just the lies, though. Just the lies that we have to see. It's again, the liberal interpretation, the media slant on this, them trying to put out the story that they want to put out rather than the truth. If we got rid of all guns, there'd be no gun violence. Oh, sure. And if we had no guns, we'd all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, and nobody could pick up a bat and hurt each other with a knife either, because we're all holding hands. Craig, you see, we can't hurt each other if we're holding hands. It's the lies that they continue to put forth that we see when they talk about this. Where they say there's no gun violence in the UK. There's no gun violence in New Zealand. That's a lie in itself. We still see gun violence in the UK, and when we don't see gun violence, we see knife violence because they've gotten rid of knives. We had this conversation the other day. You know what they've banning down in the UK? The narwhal tusks. If you don't recall the story, there was the shooting in London Bridge there in the bar outside London Bridge. Remember, the terrorists came, they didn't have a gun, so they got knives and went on a stabbing spree. And the only thing that people had to protect themselves was a narwhal tusk that was on the wall in a bar. All right. and yet many still were killed there. Well, I guess it must be a gun problem, right? Because people are killing people.
Well, what's also interesting about this, Mike, is, she said, well, first of all, the lie about, well, in Georgia, they just made it easier to get guns. And they didn't. They passed what's called constitutional carry or permitless carry. In fact, here, let me give you this. Let me play for you this second segment, which once again contains even more lies. And by the way, just so you know, the lady who's talking in most of this piece, this next segment, is a former prosecutor. Just keep that in mind when you're listening to what she has to say.
I think that the solve has been here for a long time, right? It's common sense gun legislation. And it constantly fails because Republicans have blocked that legislation across the board. Americans across the board are supportive of that gun legislation. I think it's something like 85% or more. And you can tell me in my ear what those stats are. And it's not about defunding the police. Biden has made it very clear that that is not the position of the Democratic Party. Nancy Pelosi has made it very clear. And to be clear, the NYPD's budget is $11 billion. $11 billion, which is more than the Ukrainian military has, right? So it's not about funding, it's about gun legislation. And Georgia is now one of more than 20 states, as Joy mentioned, that allows concealed guns without a permit, without a license, and without any training. And when you talk about Republican states, there is higher gun violence in Republican-led states and cities.
What's interesting about that is, and this is what she ignores, is it's not more in Republican cities. In Republican-led states that have major cities, that have large cities in them, that, oh, by the way, those cities happen to be run by Democrats. Those are the only areas. And by the way, that's the per capita, meaning per percentage of population, per 1,000 people. But the 10 cities that have the worst, and that was one of the other hosts there was saying, was the 10 cities that have the most murders and murders with firearms are all run by Democrats, and they're all in states with seriously strict gun laws.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence, Craig, that the Democrat-run states, the top 10 most violent states in the United States are those with Democrat mayors and Democrat city councils, those that are Democrat-run. That's been that way for years. We see that amongst states. We see that amongst cities. That if you're show me a Democrat-run city, show me a Democrat-run state, and I'll show you a state that has large gun violence. Craig, how many times do we have to continue to talk about where you live in California and watch the criminals, that because the soft on crime criminals, the state policy, city policies allows them to come out and commit more crimes. It came up yesterday, Craig. Remember the revelation that your shooter in Sacramento was released from his sentence less than halfway through a 10-year sentence, and he comes out and then less than 3 months later, Craig, he's shooting up and killing people in Sacramento. Also a criminal, known gangbanger, felon, but he's got that gun, Craig. So it clearly must be the gun's fault.
Oh, he's got the illegal gun, the gun that he's not supposed to have, because people don't understand. Number one, he's not supposed to have a gun, but number two, he's not supposed to have the type of gun that he actually had. But none of that really matters. And it's funny. The president, the CEO, president and CEO of the California District Attorneys Association. Now, keep in mind, this is an organization that includes folks like Chesa Bodine and George Gascon, the two socialists, and oh, by the way, also includes several others of these leftist district attorneys. Even the California District Attorneys Association notes, look, more gun laws is not going to solve the problem. We have the strictest gun laws in the entire country, and yet this still happens. New York City is one of the most difficult places to be able to legally obtain and possess a firearm, and still there's a shooting that took place. And once again, their whole thing is blame the Second Amendment, blame the tool. And that's the reason why it's funny. They start off by asking, how are we going to fix this? How are we going to address this? Well, tell you what, how about this? How about when criminals commit crimes, put them in jail? When violent criminals commit violent crimes, put them in jail for a very, very, very long time. That's what worked from the early 90s until about 2010 when y'all started letting them out of jail.
Yeah, listen, this is not difficult. They want the answer. They want the solution. We have to do something. We have to find something to do. We must do something. They want their answer. It's enforce the crimes that you have. Enforce the laws that you have. When somebody goes to jail, they go to jail. We don't put somebody who's sentenced for 10 years worth of violent crimes in, and then let's let them out in 4, because we want to be soft on them. And oh, by the way, we're going to immediately reinstate their rights right before the election as well.
Right. Funny how that works. But hey, so anyway, just for those of you who watch The View, for those of you folks on The View, if you're watching this program, we've already given you the solution. Lock them up. It's worked before. Just saying. All right,
Yeah,
next
yeah,
is
yeah.
we've talked a little bit about the attack, and we know that there's been an unprecedented attack on the ability to build firearms at home or on home builds. It's been ramped up. It's come from the White House. It's come from the mayor there of New York, who blames the shooting, by the way, that took place there in that subway on ghost guns, even though it was not a ghost gun that was used. But I guess facts really don't matter. But you've got, once again, folks are taking full advantage of it, and you have the Biden administration is actually pushing for regulation of basically looking to have them defined as firearms. Now, we all know firearms have a definition. That definition is in law, in statute, as passed by the legislative branch, because that, by the way, is where laws are passed, is in the legislative branch. But I digress. Well, the good news is that now that those rules have been kind of put in place, we now have Republicans in the Senate who are actually introducing an effort to actually block Biden's ghost gun kit ban, primarily along the lines of dealing with the issue of that's not their job. It's not the job of the executive branch to be trying to institute laws. And Mike, this story once again comes from The Reload, which is published by our good friend Stephen Gutowski over there once again at The Reload. But I think it's good to see the Senate actually stepping up, because they've really been kind of absent on pro Second Amendment issues lately when it comes to actual policy.
Yeah, I think maybe they see that the light of the tunnel is closing, and that if they don't start to do something forward to keep that light open on the Second Amendment and its use here in the United States, that we would be in trouble. Now, I'm not sure that the Senate Republicans would have the power to win a vote, of 51 to 49, but they're sure forth not going to be sitting by doing nothing at this point. And I think that's what we see here. That they might be trying to reopen that tunnel up, get us a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and perhaps get us through to the midterm elections, where there's that distinct possibility that we do retake the Senate as well as the House on the conservative side. Yeah. So I think this is their push. Their push.
I think one area where they may have a chance to get like a mansion or a cinema is because some of this has also to do with separation of powers, because clearly this is another attempt at executive overreach by once again trying to redefine something via regulations that are actually defined in statute. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with this argument, oftentimes what happens is an executive department or the executive will provide definitions and clarifications where it is vague when it comes to the enforcement of the law. Well, when something is specifically defined, right, in statute, passed by law in the legislative branch, it's not unclear. You don't get to redefine it. You don't get to change the definition. In the executive, what you have to do if you want to make those changes, you got to go back to the legislative branch.
Yeah, right. It's exactly right. It's about the proper separation, proper responsibilities of each of the branches of government. You know, how many times do we have that conversation where it's not the executive branch's authority to create law? It's the legislative branch's job to do that, judicial branch to interpret the law, and the executive branch to enforce. So I think this, like you said, this, in addition to this being a trying to put a cork in that that hole at the end of the tunnel from closing, that this is also their method of trying to reestablish their right and responsibilities as the legislative branch.
Yes, sir, Bob. Yes, sir, Bob. All right, let's move on to our next story. Now, you guys may have seen this. Maybe you have not seen this. There was, well, I'm sure you saw it, but there was, I think it was about a year ago, where there was an incident where you had Haitian refugees who were coming across the border, there across the southern border, and you had Border Patrol agents who were going and, were tasked with preventing them from entering the United States. Well, then those very same officers were accused of actually, using their reins to whip the immigrants who were coming across the border. And so and you remember President Biden got up there and said, people are going to be punished. This is an injustice. They're being strapped and people are going to be punished for this. There will not be, this justice will be done. That's pretty much what he had to say. Well, they finally finished the quote unquote the probe or whatever it was that they were going to do with this. They finally finished the research and came up with a 500-page report on this investigation. And the funny part about this 500-page report, Mike, is basically that, nobody did anything. Nobody broke the law. That was pretty much the consensus behind what came out of the report.
This is a very, very long report that contains not a lot of information. It goes through, it gives you a lot of history, gives you a lot of what was going on. And when it gets to the whipping part, it's like, oh, the whipping? Yeah, no, that didn't happen. It didn't happen. No, not from the left, not from the right, not from wherever you happen to look at it. It just didn't happen. It's amazing to see that the time and effort and the amount of just space the report takes up. And it says, it didn't happen. Well, okay, Craig. I guess that's the way that the government's going to work. That we're going to see. It's eerily similar, right? That we're going to see all this time and effort put into a giant product that has nothing new.
Well, I think the reason why I think it was such a long report was I think they felt like they needed to be like, okay, well, we at least took our time and did our research. We looked into this whole thing, and well, nothing really came of it. But now, by the way, they did note that just because the report said no one broke the law does not necessarily mean that no one will lose their jobs, because someone's got to be held accountable because Biden said something stupid. And that's what it's going to come down to. If I were these officers, and I believe that at least some of them have considered or filing suit against the administration for the defamation of character, for the things that they've said.
Yeah, I know the union was involved in that as well, looking at that, taking these guys off the job, having to put up with this nonsense. Again, for a report that says we found that the law wasn't broken, but that doesn't mean nobody's breaking the law. You just okay, whatever. Thanks for 500 pages of don't look here now.
Well, it's funny because it's funny, the more I think about it, I've started doing a little more writing, and I'm actually doing more stuff. And one of the pieces that I'm considering working on is literally just a message to the mainstream media. This is why we don't believe you, because there's instance after instance after instance where they have flat out gotten it wrong. And the problem is their bias is almost always to the left. It's almost always defending the left or attacking the right. But they almost always veer to the same exact direction every single time they say or they do something. It's not amazing. It's predictable is what it is. But yeah, and this story was the exact same thing. People saw a picture, and even when the photographer who took the pictures like, no, I never said there were any whippings. They weren't whipping anybody.
Yeah. It is funny though, Craig, isn't it? Every time they get it wrong, it never favors this. It never favors the right. It never favors the conservatives. It's always a clear favor to the. Oh, look, it favored the left again. Our storyline and our made up facts favors the. But don't worry, we're going to put a correction on the last page of the funny papers. So
well, and we'll actually touch that a little bit on in our parting shot today as well.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, before we move on to our parting shot, and this was the segment that Mike, you wanted to make sure that we did, and that was honoring 42. Today is a very special day, is it not?
Listen, it's not only a great day in baseball. It's a great day in America. What the commemoration is today. Today is 75 years to the day that Jackie Robinson played Major League Baseball with the Dodgers. All right, so this is a great feat. At that point we'd had no African Americans playing in baseball. Well, listen, we'd had African Americans play, we'd had Hispanics playing, but that was like in 1902. And then for the longest time, we decided we were going to ban African Americans from playing Major League Baseball. And it was 75 years ago today that Branch Rickey, the general manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers, said enough. It's time. It's time. Let's find the right guy. And listen, he spent an enormous amount of time finding someone that he knew would be able to put up with the nonsense. And Jackie Robinson being an Army veteran, a World War II, a great man and a gentleman in his own right, brought him into baseball. So, and Jackie had a wonderful career. Jackie had a Hall of Fame career, whether it was a black guy, white guy, or whatever. He had an incredible career as one of the best ever to play the game of baseball. Now, the second pat on the back I'm going to throw out to former Major League Commissioner Bud Selig. 25 years ago, and this is after Jackie had passed on, he decided we're going to honor Jackie by not only retiring his number from baseball. So he retired his number from baseball. The only individual in all of baseball to ever had the number retired across the board on every major league team. And he declared April 15th, Jackie Robinson Day. And if you go look at today, go watch a game. If you're on the West Coast, go watch a game that's starting tonight. If you're watching highlights on the East Coast from the day games, take notice. Today, everybody in baseball wears number 42.
Yep. Folks, what's important to understand is also about Jackie Robinson and what he did. Jackie Robinson was not considered the best African-American player at the time he was selected. He was selected for a couple of reasons. Number one, because he was a major talent. He was one of the best baseball players out there. But he also exhibited during his time, his first few years there, a temperament that allowed him to face pure hatred, racism, and bigotry, and do it in the spirit of a Dr. Martin Luther King, and really just beat hate with love, beat hate with his performance and his respect for himself, his respect for the game, his respect for the family, and recognizing the role that he was playing was that how he reacted would lay the groundwork for players that came after him. And that if there were major skirmishes, if there were fights, he understood that he had to put up with stuff that nobody would ever be asked to put up with today. But if he hadn't, that barrier would not have been broken when it was. And who knows when it would have been that barrier they would have tried to break that barrier again. So I think not just his ability on the field and in his play, but in his conduct as a man, as a leader among men, I think is something that is noteworthy and is worthy of emulation.
Listen, you're right. I want to say this. He was not the most talented at the time. Right. There were other players in the Negro Leagues. There was, Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, and the list goes on and forever. But they were in the, Josh was in the middle of his career. Satchel was at the end of his career. Mm-hmm. And when they brought Jackie in, they needed someone that was going to be there forever. Because even if you brought Satchel or Josh over and they were done in 2 or 3 years, with their careers, their lifespan of their careers, the word would have been, look, he couldn't hang. He couldn't hang in there. Right. So they needed somebody that was going to be there for the long term. Remember, we're talking 1947. Yes. Okay. Martin Luther King says he took inspiration from Jackie Robinson. Yes. Rosa Parks said it. Thurgood Marshall said it. Clarence Thomas said it here recently. Yeah. He's a guy that, there was a lot of people in this, and Jackie was the face of it. A lot of people on the opposite side that put Jackie up, the Branch Rickeys out there. But if I could point to one man who changed the course of a nation, this is my top guy for all of civil rights in the United States in the last 100 years.
Mm. Well, there you go, Mr. Robinson, Jackie Robinson. If I had a hat on, I'd take it off to you. So, thank you for your leadership. Well, okay. As one of our parting shots, we have another leader who gave a presentation yesterday, and let's just say The presentation was not. I don't know how well the presentation was well received. I'll just let you watch it. You'll know exactly what's about to happen as soon as you see it.
There's not a single thing America can't do when we do it together as the United States of America. God bless you all.
Is this
There's not a
peripheral
single
vision that
thing we
off?
can do,
He
Craig.
doesn't know there's no one standing there?
There's not a single thing we can do unless walking off stage. I can't
Except
do that.
walking off stage.
I can't. I don't know.
Where am I supposed to go? Did you shake your hand or shake your hand?
Are we done? Are we done?
Are we done? All right. The second one. All right. Now we were talking a little bit about media hypocrisy, right? Now, the number of times that the media criticized Donald Trump for something, and then Biden does the exact same thing and they praise him for it, right? This is how this is the example of bias. And by the way, this one has absolutely nothing to do with Donald Trump. Well, except that he got kicked off Twitter.
There's not a single thing America can't do when we do it together.
Wrong one. Hold on. I put the video on there. Let's go over to this. There we go. Now we got it. Okay. So this is from the Business Insider, right? For those of you who don't know, this is just a publication they're all leftists over there. Billionaire Jeff Bezos, Washington Post, post by marks a fascinating cultural transition in America. So talking about Jeff Bezos buying the Washington Post, it is a fascinating cultural transition, right? But when Elon Musk attempts to buy Twitter, it represents a chilling new threat. Billionaire trolling taking over social media. Mikey?
Listen, look at the dates, right? 2013, who was in power? Who was the president then, as opposed to who's the president in 2022, right?
Well, in 2013, that was Barack Obama.
Right.
And now
but
you've got Joe Biden.
Right.
Hey, just once again, what is amazing to me once again is because Elon Musk is simply saying, let's let conservatives, let's let everyone have their say. Everyone should be able to engage in free speech, not just the people you agree with. Right.
Right. And I'm sorry. My point being, look at the dates, look at the president. We're talking pre-Trump and post-Trump.
There you go. Yes, you are one. Okay. Now I get it. Now I get it. But I'm tired. I'm sick and I'm tired of the hypocrisy and then them acting like they're not censoring. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Censorship. And that's exactly what they're engaging in. That's what the Washington Post wants to engage in. That's what Democrats want to engage in. That's what Twitter's engaging in. Facebook, Google. If it's unpopular, if you don't like it, you then get to censor it. I'm sorry, but I've never known censorship of that kind, in particular of differing perspectives. I've never known that to be done by the good guy.
No, you're right. It always happens. It always comes out of the left, and you see this type of hypocrisy, all too often, right? We see it earlier today in the report with the whipping, right? The report should have been a clear, this should have been a clear dismissal of all charges against anybody out there with this whipping charge, but instead it's just a side story, 500 pages of fluff. Don't look this way.
Oh yeah, the main story to them was we did a 500-page report, so we did a lot, right? We really did our background and our research into this.
Yep.
And by the way, no one did anything wrong.
It didn't happen. Don't worry about it.
All right, Mike. Shout out to our sponsors, please.
Yeah, let's say hello to our good friends out there, and thank you to our good friends out there, to Guerrilla Machining, Grid Defense, and of course the fine folks out at the California Republican Assembly. I don't know who's got the tougher job, Craig. People now trying to supply firearms and firearms accessories to those under the Second Amendment assault, or Republicans in California.
I'm going to say Republicans in California got the toughest job because, heck, we're the ones under assault with the guns. So, anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for liking and sharing and encouraging your friends to do the same. I hope you guys have a phenomenal Easter weekend, and we'll be back with you again on Monday, Fun Day, Gun Day.